Where do I begin to explain the experience of Songs of SYX, an epic city-state simulator? I guess with a story? 10 pigmen move into an open field. They're excited to stick their flag in the sand and call this place their home. I, as their benevolent leader, make one of them a pigman janitor to look after the place, and the other 9 are made into fierce hunters. They all die of starvation. It's at this point that I realise that pigmen are, in fact, vegetarian. Next attempt, I decide to go with 10 humans because I'm pretty familiar with what humans eat. We build farms, hunters, libraries, and as my city grows, so too does my population. On reaching 100 humans, I'm informed that I've reached the first rank of City Stardom, which may, if I'm unlucky, attract bandits. 5 minutes later, bandits turn up. They want 12,000 gold or they'll kick sand in my face. I have 4,000 gold? I agree to their demands under the assumption I would just give them 4,000 gold. I now have minus 8,000 gold, and it's at this point I have no money to import the things I need to continue building. I sneak away from my town of humans and go off to build another one. This is the joy of Songs of SYX. It's a learning process. Currently, I'm on my 5th or 6th, or it might even be 7th or so playthrough, and roughly 25 to 30 hours deep, because I keep learning things that will make my next playthrough go smoother. It's also kind of the bane of Songs of SYX, because unless you're willing to commit to a learning period, you may be incredibly frustrated. Let's get this out of the way first and foremost. Songs of SYX is still in development, and as such there is barely a tutorial. The in-game encyclopedia is written in chalk, and the UI is still a little fluffy around the edges. Combine this with a game that wants you to take care of a giant city of creatures of all different races, who all want different things with a consistently increasing demand of comfort, and it's a hard push through those early segments. You're going to be confused, and if you're not willing to put in some effort yourself, then you're probably going to find the game a bit of a struggle. I'm on the other side of the fence. I absolutely loved the fact that Songs of SYX's tutorial told me 2 things, then expected me to go and learn the 50,000 other things I needed to know, because I love to see what goes wrong in games like this. Rimworld, back when it was still in early access, gave me the same feeling. I don't understand what's happening in this game, but by God do I want to know! And then everyone dies. Don't let that reference to Rimworld confuse you though. While this game does have some similarities to Ludeon Studios' masterpiece, Songs of SYX is a much grander scale. Where Rimworld focuses on the emotional details of your useless band of individual cretins, Songs of SYX is more about the combined emotional state of your entire useless band of individual cretins. You can, for instance, select any one of your citizens to see an overwhelming number of statistics about them, but fixing one person's problems likely isn't going to make your city run any faster, and an efficient city is what you're aiming for. So let's take a look at what that entails and give you some idea as to how this snowballs using my latest playthrough. Starting off with 10 humans, there's a few decisions you need to make right away. The first being, where on this enormous map do I begin? Well, if you're me, the first thing you'll be looking for is fertility, although now that I've said that sentence out loud, I really hope no one's overheard me. The more fertile the land is, the better your crops will grow, which is why my 3rd attempt, where I accidentally started off in a desert, did not go well at all. There are some other things to take note of, such as the resources that are likely available in this particular area, but the chances of you being completely self-sufficient, especially straight away, are slim. So here we are, and after choosing a place to plop our throne room, it's time to get to work. The first thing I tend to do after multiple retries is get the following sorted. A warehouse to store all the goods I'll be producing, vital if you want everything in a central place, farms, hunters, a janitor to make sure things aren't falling apart, a well to make sure your people don't stink, a hearth to ensure they're kept warm at night, import and export zones for selling and buying goods, and a few other basics before setting up our first laboratory. The lab is another place that can cause you to fail quite quickly if you don't experiment or look up a guide on what to research first. It's very easy to look at something in the research tree and excitedly choose it before realizing that the resources required to build such a thing are completely out of your wheelhouse right now. Believe me, it took 3 games before I managed to get the hang of this section alone. That's mostly down to the UI. It doesn't particularly tell you this stuff unless you go digging through other menus to find it. You may well be thinking, okay, why don't you just wait until you get more research points? But they don't quite work like that. Researching is an uphill climb, and the more technologies you unlock, the harder your people are going to have to work in order to get more research points, which means bigger labs and more people doing the research. This is the theme of Songs of SYX, and it's the constant driving force that keeps you glued to your screen. Expansion requires people, people require goods, goods require expansion. Every time you introduce a new element into the mix, you need to think about how you're going to support it. First and foremost, citizens are going to be the most important tool in your arsenal because, well, they're the ones who are going to be doing all of this stuff. There are multiple races, each with their own wants and needs. The pigmen are, as we came to find out, vegetarians, and the elf people really like to do outdoors jobs because they're a bunch of tree shaggers. The humans, on the other hand, spend all day getting angry on Twitter. And that's just 3 of the potential offerings on show. You choose your levels of immigration based on what you want within your own town, set individually based on each race. You probably want to keep your starting race as the majority mind, otherwise they may get a little pissed off that the city has become what Daily Mail readers think Britain has already become. More people means more food, which sometimes means more technology, which sometimes means more people, which sometimes means more food. And all the while these people want more comforts, which means you need more technology so you can build the things you need to get those comforts, which means more people, which means more food. This makes Songs of SYX sound like a ticking time bomb of panic, but somehow it never reaches that point. This is a game in which you can set the pace. Do you want to expand right now? No? Cool, get your people in order before you do any of that. Once you've got the core needs in place, everything else you do is going to be an extension on top of that. And it's one that you can prepare for well ahead of time, when you know what you're doing. And that's the real crux here, knowing what you're doing. It'd be foolish of me to go over everything on offer in the game. It is incredibly deep, and I've barely begun to scratch the surface, from imports and exports to plagues to nobility, all the way up to full-scale warfare, which I've yet to actually reach. But from what I've been reading, it's still in early development anyway. There's just so much going on here. The game is an absolute behemoth, and isn't even due to fully release until next year. But the one thing that really needs to be pointed out here, this is from a single developer, a lone person. One single person sat down and created a game with all these features, all working together, a literal ant farm full of wants and needs and commitments. This is Chris Sawyer levels of insanity. And here's the other thing. If you're still unsure on Songs of SYX, if you're not sure whether you can push through that initial knowledge barrier, well, you can give it a try anyway. The full game is currently available for just a spot under £20, but the demo available is, in fact, not a demo at all. It's the full game, just using an older build. If you're curious, then there is absolutely no reason not to go in and check it out. And if you're anything like me, you'll have bought the game within an hour. Songs of SYX isn't going to be for everyone, but it's surprising just how many people the game does cater for. It appeals to those who like to fiddle with the macro and micro to make things more efficient, but it also appeals to those who love to city build, to see things expand and to know that they're putting together a working machine. Maybe even one with pretty trees at symmetrical road points, just because. Throw in the Steam Workshop for mods and you've got yourselves an insane amount of content. It is, quite simply, incredible, and my newest obsession, so if you need me, I'll be building a bigger prison, because all the people I made live in a cave so they could get to work mining more efficiently won't stop fighting with each other. Probably because they're absolutely miserable living in darkness all day long, but rather than sort that out, I'm just going to arrest them all. Truly, I've built a despotic paradise for all.